I think Spelunky is very, very interesting because it's a very popular game. It's also a very old game, at least the first one, depending on your definition of old, of course. But I would say it's like one of the most quote-unquote unfair games that are like widely accepted by the gaming community. And I find that pretty interesting. Now, as I said, this might be because it's quite an old game. I believe like the original like pixel art version or whatever you want to call it was like released in like 2009 or 2008. So it's like way before all of this, complete fairness obsession in game design became very in fashion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
So
there was
maybe
even
it's just
a web version before that, by the way. So
yeah, that's the one I mean.
yeah.
But yeah, so maybe it's because it's old. But it's still like very well thought of, I guess. I don't know what the word is. Well regarded, yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting because there's a bunch of things in that game that if that game was released today, everyone would say was unfair and BS and garbage or whatever and bad game design, as they always do. And so, just to like throw out some examples there, the spikes, one of my favorite mechanics in the game. So you have lives in Spelunky, right? So like if you walk into a spider, you take 1 life damage. If you jump into a spike, though, you lose all your lives, no matter how many lives you have. And like, I always like to use this example because it's so funny. Considering that, like, when Silixon was released last year, people were mad about some bosses doing double damage with 1 hit. Spikes being able to instantly kill you would probably be something people would be very mad about if it came out today. But then there's also like weird stuff or interesting stuff, you might want to call it. I think one of my favorite things about Spelunky is the like super weird chain reactions that can happen. Usually when you die. So like I walk into a spider, I take damage, I get like pushed back a bit, which makes me fall a bit, which makes me get hit by an arrow, which throws me into like maybe a spike or maybe another monster, and then I like keep flying away like over and over. And like there's nothing you can do to break that once that is in motion. It's like incredibly unreactable, and you're just stuck there looking at yourself slowly dying like step by step. Which once again is very interesting. I don't know, what do you think?
I agree.
You agree?
Yeah. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I think, I like using the word unreactable a lot.
Yeah.
And as we often complain about on the podcast, unreactable gameplay is not very in fashion right now, right? Everything is about parries and... go ahead.
Can I say something about what you just said first? Yeah,
go ahead.
So one thing that I really appreciate about Spelunky, I think like the way you described it doesn't give it credit enough where you're saying it's unfair, because it is so fundamentally against the fairness logic that it's comical. Yeah. Because when you play that game, you are so confident. You're so confident. You're like, I got this, I got all these lives, I have these sick items, I have a bunch of money. And then you, like you said, you walk into a spider and you bounce off a wall and then you hit something else and that pushes you into a spike and you're dead and your run is over.
Yeah.
And there is nothing you can do about it. Because you were like super duper tiny bit of greedy, right? You were like, I can get there. You couldn't, and your run is over. And I think that is great. I think more games should do that.
I mean, sometimes it isn't even that you were greedy. It was like, you weren't looking carefully enough, and like a spider was flying down on you from like outside of the screen because the roof was really, or the ceiling was really high.
Yeah, I guess overconfident is a better word.
Yeah,
because like the game
you need to be like very careful.
I mean, sure, it's hard, but like, if you actually play carefully and you know, like, if you've learned all the things that can happen, the game is actually quite forgiving, right? But you need to, like, the problem is that you get overconfident immediately and you die, right? Because you need to keep being careful, right? And looking.
Yeah. Well, I think that ties very well into like the ghost. So like as you said, if you're careful, Spelunky is like actually not that hard. Like there are some hard things, especially in like the jungle level or whatever. I hate that level. But like yeah, so the ghost. The point I want to bring up with the ghost is that there's time pressure, right? Which I feel like once again, perhaps not to complain too much about like modern game design or whatever, but I feel like time pressure is one of those things that isn't very in fashion, and like if you remove the time pressure from Spelunky, it would be kind of boring because you could just like be very careful and like inch forward very carefully and never take any risks and clear everything out super carefully. It's like because you have that like impending doom or whatever you want to call it of the ghost like spawning in and absolutely slaughtering you. That like helps the game so much because all of a sudden you kind of need to be confident, right? You're forced to be confident, as you said. And when you're confident, you make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you get thrown into this incredible chain reaction where you just die instantly. And it's very funny and very interesting. Maybe I maybe should have explained the ghost in case someone hasn't actually played Spelunky. I just realized. So basically, if you take too long on a level, there will like spawn a ghost on the edge of the level, which will like fly through the walls and then fly towards you and kill you. So like, I actually haven't checked this out, but like, if someone's very good at the game, can they like be good enough to actually dodge the ghost for a considerable amount of time?
I mean, that would depend on the level, I guess, right?
True. Yeah.
Or
yeah, it would get hard if like the level isn't correctly like set up for that.
I mean, you can definitely, if it's the correct direction and like if the ghost is coming from the left and you're going to the right, there is no problem, right? But if the ghost is in your way, it's kind of hard. I haven't seen, like, I see what you're saying, like if you could manipulate it completely, but it would still depend on the level, right? Because you can't fly.
No, I don't think you can like completely like play around it or whatever. But I feel like a very good player would probably be able to do it at least a little bit to like get some extra time on the level or whatever. Which is very interesting because there's one more thing that I find very interesting, or well, there are several more things, but that I want to get into that's sort of related, and that's the damsel and then the like golden heads or whatever. And I guess this basically ties into the pickup system too, so we can talk about that too. So like in Spelunky, you can pick up basically anything that's on the map. So like you can pick up enemies, you can pick up jars, you can pick up the damsels, which I'll get into soon, and the golden idols or whatever, and you can basically pick up everything. And it's like very cool because it's very systematic and you can kind of use basically everything as a weapon. So like if you have like a stunned enemy, you can pick them up and then throw them at another enemy and stuff like that. Which is all super cool. But what I wanted to get into is the damsel and the idol thing. So like on some levels, is it all levels you have the damsel? I don't remember.
I think so.
Yeah. You'll have like some lady you need to save, and if you save her you get an extra life, so you need to like pick her up and then bring her to the end of the level in order to get an extra life. And then on some levels you'll also have like golden idols or other things you need to also get to the exit, and I think this ties very well into the time pressure thing. And it's not only that, you also have like items. So like if you have a shotgun, for example, which is a very powerful item, you need to like drop that to pick up the damsel and then go to the level exit and save her and then go back and pick up your shotgun or whatever. And like all of this adds to the time pressure. So like you're always making these very interesting decisions where it's like, oh well, I could save this damsel or whatever, but I'm gonna drop my shotgun. Is it worth the risk? I don't know, stuff like that. which is very interesting. And then there's also
they like, I think, to point out about the item system, which is kind of I think more games should think in this ways, that it's very uniform, right? With like you said, it's not only that you can use everything as a weapon, it's that everything is classified as an item, right?
Yeah.
Not everything. I think there's some things that are like equipment or whatever, but most
things...
things...
you have like capes and stuff.
Yeah. Most things are items, which means that they have sort of a unified language of how they work or whatever. Right? How you pick them up, how you drop them, how you stuff like that. And I think stuff like that does make a difference, at least to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it would be way less interesting if you could just pick all the stuff up, right?
Well, what do you mean?
Yeah, well, if you had like, I don't know, it's like, well, you have a gun, but you can put it on your back and you can...
Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you're losing... Well, it's two reasons, right? First, it's because of what you just said. Like, there's this unified systematic, like, interface or whatever you want to call it, where you're doing like everything the same way, no matter what it is, which is interesting. Which also has an interesting like side effect or whatever you want to call it, because like obviously when you first play Spelunky, you're like, okay, I can pick up the damsel or I can pick up a weapon or whatever. But then you start realizing, oh wait, I can pick up like the jars and I can throw them around. Yeah. Oh, I can pick up the enemies and I can throw them around.
Yeah, and then you can use the jars to like deal with enemies as well, right? Like you didn't think about stuff like that in the beginning.
Exactly. And it also becomes very important because you have like the arrows traps, which like shoot arrows when something passes them. So you might need to pick something up to throw it at them and whatever. So it all like ties very well together into the gameplay in a very interesting way. But then going back to what I said about like risk reward stuff as well, you also have the like altar thing, right, where you can sacrifice living things. Which once again is a very cool like systematic thing, similar to the pickup system, because when I first played Spelunky, my first reaction was like, okay, I'll put the damsel here and then I'll get the reward for putting the damsel here. And like, oh, it's a cool risk-reward thing because I lose a life, but I get a powerful item or whatever. But then I realized that, wait, I can put anything that's living on here. So like if I put a stunned enemy or whatever, yeah, that works. And like different stuff happens and it's very interesting. And so like there's a very clear like red... Or do you say red thread in English?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Whatever. There's like a very clear theme or whatever of like encouraging experimentation, I guess, in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
And like being creative, like being actually creative in your gameplay and like solving problems in creative ways and like using items in ways that aren't obvious.
Yeah, it sort of ties into what we talked about with the Dicey Dungeons thing, with what's it called? The bear, right? Where Spelunky is really good at that thing, where it has all these systems and they are intuitive in a way, right? So if you think intuitively, I guess, then you can figure stuff out, right? It's like, well, like it categorizes things and then you can utilize them, right?
Yeah.
It's very good in that way. It's very roguelike, I think, in that way, right? Which is sort of one of the things I really like about roguelikes.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I have actually read the Spelunky book by Derek Yu, the developer.
Yeah.
And in that book, he talks about like how he was inspired by very old school roguelikes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense there wasn't any roguelites at the time, right?
True. But yeah, it's very similar in that way. But without like the bloat, I would say, because
Yeah.
like a lot of old school roguelikes are very bloated and overcomplicated.
Yeah.
And so like Spelunky manages to do the cool stuff that old school roguelikes do without like having too much stuff or whatever. Which is very nice. There was one thing going back to the like unfair part, which I find very, very interesting. And once again, I don't think modern game designers think this way. And that is that you can get stuck, and that's it. Like, if you're out of bombs and out of ropes, there is nothing you can do if you get stuck.
Yeah.
And I feel like
well, you can die by the ghost.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's basically all you can do, or you can like probably kill yourself in some weird way because you can always do that in that game. But like, I find it very, very interesting because I feel like a lot of modern game designers, they think in this way like, oh, you can get stuck. Well, that's a problem that I need to fix. So I need to find some way to get the player unstuck if they are in this situation, or I need to make sure that this never happens, and so on and so on. And I feel like...
I mean, it depends a little bit, because in some games that is true, right? Like, if you're stuck, you break. But, like, if you're doing, like, Spelunky, where you have runs or whatever, right?
It's totally of course. If you can, like, soft lock yourself completely, that's kind of bad, yeah. But, yes, something like Spelunky, you know, with, like, destructible levels or whatever. But like, yeah. So, I feel like that's something that most designers would try to fix. And it's very nice that Derek, you didn't fix that, because it's not a problem. Because the thing is, it goes back to this like unreactability. If you're stuck in a hole, that's because you did something wrong like beforehand. You did some like the last 5 minutes of your run or whatever, you wasted bombs. So now you don't have bombs to get yourself out of this situation. So like, you know, people will say, oh, it's unfair because you can't do anything about it. But that's not true. You could have done something about it previously, and now you're, like, stuck because of it. And that, of course, creates very interesting gameplay, because you can't just waste bombs, for example, and you can't just waste ropes. They become very, very important to, like, use sparingly.
Yeah, I think this ties into something that we kind of need to talk about in the podcast at some point, which is this, like, it's not necessarily that it is, I mean, it is in that game, but it's not necessarily that the action is interesting in and of itself. It's that the action has consequences. So I'm gonna make like a very, let's call it, what's the English term? Like long, it's not long. What do you...
That's the Swedish. I know what you mean. Yeah. Very... it doesn't seem connected, but it is. Yeah.
So go ahead. If you look at old Souls games, for example, Demon Souls, you can just kill all the NPCs in that game. And if you do that, you can't upgrade your weapons, you can't buy spells, right? And there's nothing you can do about it in that run. Like, you're just out of NPCs. And in the modern way, right? It's like, well, why do that? That's just, what if the player does that? That's mean to the player, right? But that's not true, because it is sort of interesting. Like, it sells... How should I say this? The world feels more alive in a way. I don't know, that sounds very... unclear, I think, but maybe you sort of get what I'm saying, right? Yeah, where it's not the act itself that is interesting. It's just that, well, for example, in Elden Ring or in Sekiro, right? You can't kill NPCs because you're in this safe zone, right? And that feels very arbitrary and dumb, in my opinion. I don't know if you thought about that.
Yeah.
Played Sekiro, where it's like your character starts walking and you can't use your weapon, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a very
sometimes they
common
have an
thing to do.
NPC that you can't kill, or like they respawn or something, but then they have like a lore reason for it, and that sells it way better. Like I think stuff like that matters a lot, right? And so if we take this back to Spelunky, it's like it makes this like if you could just get out of there, then it's not as interesting because it's like, oh, like you let's say you don't have resources, then you can't just jump down there. It's like in real life, right? You're like stuck there if you go down there. You need to have a way to get out, or like try to figure out if it's safe to go down there. And if you can just get out, then it's not interesting anymore, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that made
Yeah,
any
it's
sense,
like
but
yeah, no, I agree. It's like I guess it kind of boils down to your actions actually having long-term consequences.
yeah.
So like if you jump into a hole without anything to help you get out, yeah, you're stuck there. Like there's a consequence to your mistake.
I think it's not only that. I think it's like the sandbox thing, right? Or no, sandbox is the wrong word now because sandbox means something else. I mean, it's like kindergarten, right? It's like, no, you can't do this. Whereas if a game is more like that, like Spelunky or like I said with the NPCs in Souls or whatever, then the game is like, no, you do whatever you want. I don't care, and you deal with it if you do. Like you go kill all the NPCs.
Yeah.
But you have to deal with the consequences of having no NPCs, right?
Yeah.
Whereas new games are so concerned with making sure the player can't do anything bad to their own playthrough, right? And that doesn't sound like a good idea, but to them it sounds like a good idea, right? But it makes the game feel fake in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it sort of becomes this roller coaster thing, right? Where it's like, don't,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like theme park,
Yeah.
you're in the ride. You don't get you're not a free thinking person. You're just on for the ride or whatever.
And I think that kills immersion more than they realize.
Yeah, I think so too.
Even if the thing that they are defending you from actually doesn't have any interesting implications, it still matters, I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, because the consequences are so severe, the implications are kind of inherently interesting because it means that you need to be very careful about what you do always. Like, if you see a hole, you can't just jump into it and see what happens.
Yeah, in Spelunky for sure.
You need to like stop and like look down and see if you can see anything. Like, can I jump into this hole? Is this safe? Will there be spikes at the bottom? Will I be able to get up? Like, you need to do all of this, like, all of these. You need to like filter through all of these like possible factors that influence your decision whether you jump down into the hole or not. And then you need to make the decision, but like you actually need to do it fast because there's a time limit and there's enemies chasing you or whatever. And like that's super interesting compared to just jumping into the hole and seeing what happens.
For sure. But like even going back to Souls just one final time, which is like there's not really an interesting trade of killing the blacksmith or whatever, right? It's like the blacksmith. I guess, I mean, technically they like, so actually there is like, for example, in Dark Souls, there actually is a reason because he sells an item and you can like get that item without paying him if you kill him. But I guess that's technically a benefit. But like there are NPCs where it's like you kill that NPC, that there was no point in killing them, right? It's just you can't do whatever that NPC wanted to do anymore. I guess most of them give you some item, I guess. So there is technically, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's not necessarily that there is an interesting trade-off. It's just that like you actually have an impact on this world in a way, right? And what you're actually like, you're not just here, right? Like you said with the roller coaster thing, right? Theme park. Yeah. But for Spelunky, like, and I mean, we can like, you can see that in all of the things in Spelunky, right? So for example, with the store, right? Like it's very clear that the designer there, Hugh, understands this, right? Because every single thing in the game works like this, where it's like, no, you can do it either way, but like he's designing it. Okay, so let's talk about the store, right? So if this was a store in most games, it would be like, oh no, your weapon is disabled, and you go in here and you can pick up whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
But since this is Spelunky and Derek, you made it, and he recognizes what we just described, right? You can actually just steal whatever you want in the store, and then you think, oh, that's great. So I can just steal whatever I want, no consequences. Well, the thing is, the shopkeeper is gonna get mad, right?
Yeah.
And that is way more interesting, right?
And the shopkeeper is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Yes. He like starts shooting you with a shotgun instantly if you're not careful.
But the thing is, there are probably times where it is useful to rob him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume, like, I'm not very good at Spelunky.
Yeah,
I would assume that better players would like rob the store all the time.
I think there's like,
they know
depending on like, yeah, I guess, yeah. No, if you're really good, you because you get more score if you don't buy stuff, right? So you would want to rob him.
I think so, yeah.
Because you're using your score to buy items. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to look at some like Spelunky high scores or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also tying back into this unreactability thing, which perhaps is a theme of today's video. You know, the thing I find really interesting is that you can accidentally get the shopkeeper mad.
Yes.
Like, you can start a chain reaction that like makes something near his store blow up, which makes him mad, so that he starts running around and firing his shotgun like a maniac.
Yes.
And like, once again, I feel like this is something modern designers would absolutely not do in any way, because they're like, oh well, it's unfair because he should only get mad when you like rob him with intention, you know, like intentionally rob him. Because oh well, the mechanic is that you rob him, so he gets mad when you rob him. But no, like, he gets mad when anything bad happens near him, and he just starts killing everything near him. And like, that's so much more interesting because it makes everything like, how do you say this? Like, it makes the world,
I guess.
Yeah, well, it's systematic, but it also makes the world feel like very hostile, I guess.
Yes.
And like you're not the main character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're just a guy there spelunking in the caves, and like everyone else is living their lives or whatever. And like, if the shopkeeper gets disturbed, he gets mad no matter who does it.
Yeah.
And like, it ties back into what I said previously also about like, you need to be careful about what you do, because everything you do can have like chain consequences. So like, I don't know, throwing a rock at some enemy could cause a chain reaction that makes the shopkeeper mad.
Yeah.
And like, it's very interesting because, as I said, not only does it mean that you always need to like be careful about what you do, but also it means that you always need to be like ready to think on your toes, I guess, to like, because sometimes it's like you couldn't really have, like, obviously you could have, but like it's not unreasonable to claim that it was actually an accident, and like, you know, you shouldn't have expected the shopkeeper to have become mad because of some chain reaction that you created.
Yeah.
And like, in those situations, it's still interesting because all of a sudden you need to like rethink everything. It's like, oh shit, now I have a mad shopkeeper at the bottom of the level who like runs around and spams his shotgun, and like, I need to do something about that. That wasn't in my plan. Now I need to like think on the fly, and it's very interesting how like those things, you know. I think the like rolling boulder is also a very good example of this. So like, if you pick up the golden idol, you know, Indiana Jones style, there will be like a boulder that rolls and like completely demolishes the map.
It's also like, looking at it, it's comically aggressive as well, right? It's like just insanely fast, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and like crushes everything. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Same with the shopkeeper. He's super fast and like spams
it's not
his
like
attacks.
Again, I mean, we like making I'm not making fun, but like criticizing modern stuff, right? Like, if this game was made today, I feel like that boulder would like bounce half as much and be half speed at least, right?
Yeah.
It's insane how fast and bouncy it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, it just means that, you know, you always have to think on your toes because the
Think
level
on your
can
toes?
completely change. Did I not say that?
Is that an expression?
I think so.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
You always need to be ready to improvise because, you know, the level can change completely in an instant.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Yeah. And I think also one thing that's funny is that, you know, when these things happen, they also cause chain reactions. So like, for example, if you like pick up the golden idol and the boulder spawns, like the boulder can like kill the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing you can do about it. So like I just like it's very hard to like describe Spelunky without saying, and then this creates a bunch of interesting chain reactions in literally every sentence, because that's like everything you do in Spelunky, everything that happens in Spelunky creates super interesting chain reactions, which usually end up with you dead, by the way, which is very funny.
Yeah, and it ties back to, like you said, you mentioned you had that inspiration, right? The roguelikes, right? Mm-hmm. And this is like one of the things I think roguelikes do really, really well, where they are fundamentally extremely systematic, right? Mm-hmm. And that is super interesting. A lot of them are not always interesting to play, in my opinion. I think there probably is some good ones. I haven't played enough like old school roguelikes to be, you know, to know.
An expert.
Yeah. I'm not an expert. I played very few actually, but that part of them, right, is really, really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I guess the biggest weakness of that formula is something that I think Spelunky inherits. That is also sort of interesting, which is I think a lot of people is gonna disagree with, and that is the random levels, right? Mm-hmm. I think random levels are actually not that interesting, but I also recognize that in a game like Spelunky you almost need it, right?
Yeah.
Because that game wouldn't work if you knew where to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because you would kind of solve the level, right?
Yeah.
At some point. But I do kind of agree with you, because one thing I feel when I play Spelunky, because it has randomly generated levels, is that like I would like to retry levels again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know quite how to like. It feels like sometimes this is kind of a problem with all randomly generated run based games, which is that, you know, sometimes it's just better to restart. And I feel like Spelunky definitely isn't a too big of a problem, especially because like your run can end at any second anyways. So it's not like, oh, I didn't get the perfect run, so now I'm gonna restart. I wouldn't say that's a problem in Spelunky, but I would say that sometimes it's very obvious that like the random generation of the level got a bit lucky and everything got a bit easier, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. But like I want to give, what's the right word? Like compared to other roguelites, I think Spelunky recognizes the randomness. Okay, that's not the right way to say it. So Spelunky is a very exploration-oriented game.
Yeah.
So it actually, even though we're being mean to the random generation, it gets a lot of benefits from the random generation because it's about evaluating the scenario, right? There's not actually that much execution skill in. I mean, you can argue whatever, but compared to other games, I think like it's not tight controls or whatever. It's more like, can I go here? What's there? And like evaluating based on what you've seen before, right?
Yeah.
And so that really lends itself well to random generation. Whereas I feel like a lot of modern roguelites, all the random generation does is make the levels irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
So like more combat oriented games definitely don't benefit from the random generation at all, right? Because that's just, oh look, now I went left instead of right, and then like the consequences of that is that you can't make any interesting encounters in the levels, right? It's all part of the, yeah, you know what I mean, right? Like the encounters can't be tied to the level because the level is non-existent, right? So it will have to be like a combat arena or something. Whereas in Spelunky,
yeah, exactly. Like you can't, like it's very hard to design intentionally. Like,
no, you can't.
Oh yeah, this enemy goes really well with this enemy. Like they create some interesting combo. But like in a randomly generated level, that's almost impossible to actually have happen in an interesting way. I mean, it depends on how they work, but in many cases it is impossible.
And I guess one thing I want to point out with Spelunky that I'm also gonna give him credit for is he has talked about, like Derek Yu, the designer, he's talked about like how he went about doing the level generation. And if you look at a lot of games, they have these like fancy ways to do it, and his way, if I understand it correctly, is very like simple. It's just he made a bunch of rooms that are like squares, and then it just picks so like the map is like a big square out of smaller squares, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't remember the number. Let's say it was 8 by 8
9 by 9.
9 by 9, yeah. Right.
I'm not sure.
And so the rooms are actually quite well designed, right? Because they're just parts of, like, he has made these like mini scenarios, and it's just like which ones do you get, right?
Yeah.
And so that also is part of why it works better than a lot of other roguelites, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, because the rooms themselves are like individually designed.
Yeah.
But then the order that they come in, I guess, is randomized.
Yeah.
And I think that works quite well, because a lot of times you end up having like, what do you want to call it, like recurring rooms that are iconic or whatever.
Yeah.
So like in the first in the mine level, you have like the snake pit, which is like a pit with like 5 snakes at the bottom, and like if you jump down, you'll die right away. And that's like a recurring thing, like very iconic part of the map, I guess. Which you can't get if you have randomized, like completely randomized levels.
Yeah.
And I think in general, like roguelikes that have, or well, any game that uses randomized levels, when they do the approach that Spelunky does, where it's like designed levels in a random order, they work way better.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking this when I played Rogue Legacy 2, which is a very bad game because it has absolutely atrocious meta progression.
Yes.
But like the levels in that game are actually interesting. Like there are some really interesting encounters there that like use the enemies creatively and like everything like that. And damn, I wish that game didn't have meta progression, because like the level design kind of works because the rooms are pre-designed. It's just the order that they come in that is like randomized.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's generally a problem with roguelikes in particular. It's that, as you said, the levels end up not mattering at all.
Yeah, that is, but you also have to recognize that is the point, right? The point is that the levels are not.
Yeah, I guess.
The main focus.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you do the generation, because like I mean, I guess so maybe some designers don't think about it in that way, but that's like what it does. It makes it so that you can make like you are in a way admitting that the level design is not the interesting part. It's just you going around, and the encounters or whatever are the interesting part.
Yeah. Which I feel like a lot of designers would say, well, that's fine because you just design interesting mechanics that don't need a level. But the problem with that is that doesn't really work, because if you've designed a bunch of super interesting enemies and they end up like not doing anything interesting because the random generation didn't allow for it, then it doesn't matter that your enemy is interesting whatsoever.
And to be clear, that also happens in Spelunky in the overall sense, right? So the individual, like we said, because he made these parts, right? And what parts they connect with, you get this matrix of like potential like combinations of things, right? But that's you don't get this, like playing, I don't know, some very well designed platformer, right? Level wise, handcrafted, I mean, right?
Yeah.
Where the like entire level is thought out or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You only get these small like pieces that are interesting in Spelunky, which is the intention, because you want them to be very, like he doesn't want you to go down here and know that this thing is here, right? That's the point. He doesn't want you to understand the level design, right? That's not part of the game, because if you could just do that, then all of the stuff we talked about with the like you fall down and you don't know and stuff like that, you would know that, right? So it wouldn't be as interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
But with combat games, I feel like that's less relevant, right? They're like, oh, I don't know what's here, except for like dopamine arguments or whatever, right? But like, oh, I wonder what's here. Right.
Whoa, an upgrade to my character.
Because if you have because like if you actually design the levels, you can build I'm gonna bring up Souls again. I'm sorry, I have to. And like especially old Souls news, this is actually one of the problems we talked about it when we talked about Elden Ring, that this is not the case in Elden Ring, and it's also gotten worse over time. Like Demon's Souls is the best one for this, and that is that they don't get enough credit for like the enemies and the environments are important together, right? It's like very like enemies are placed in a way where they are more annoying based on where they're placed and stuff like that, right? And that's very like our favorite term, not in fashion or whatever, right? In fashion, enemy encounter design is very open, right? It's like you get like a combat arena every time. It's like a corridor and then combat arena, corridor, combat arena, right?
Yeah.
And Souls is not at all like that, and I think that is actually one of the reasons why people like really like those like the games. I mean, there's a ton of reasons, but
I
I
definitely agree. Like, it wasn't like the new Ninja Gaiden game, which was like. If you look at the old Ninja Gaiden games on harder difficulties, there will be like enemies like placed on bridges and stuff that are really hard to reach and so on. But in the new Ninja Gaiden game, it's like, oh, it's a square or circular arena and the enemies come at you in an orderly fashion and it's all super uninteresting and whatever.
Yeah. I haven't played the old Ninja Gaiden games, but I should definitely get to them at some point, because his design philosophy, what's his name again? Itagaki? Yeah. So he seems like he was onto something for real.
Yes, definitely.
It's kind of annoying though, because like I think Ninja Gaiden 2 you need to play on the 360 or something, because
the remasters are trash.
Yeah, so that's not great, but I'll have to figure that out somehow.
Me
at some point.
Maybe someday we'll make a delving into on that game.
Yeah. I do have a 360 somewhere, I think, but I guess you could play it on an emulator or something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably better frame rates. I don't think it's that stable on 360.
Probably not.
I think it's 60 at least, though, compared to Old Souls, which is like, that's one of the biggest. Like, Old Souls is 30, which is yuck.
Yeah, that's too low.
Yeah, I mean, if we're lucky, it's 30.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. 720p, 20 FPS gaming. Remember the time when people were arguing that was fine, and no one. Yeah.
Do you remember cinematic 24 FPS?
Yeah. The human eye can't see more than 24 FPS. Yeah.
True. Yeah. Well, going back to Spelunky.
Yeah.
There is one more thing that I want to talk about, which like it's one of my modern game design pet peeves, or whatever you want to call it. And that is AI. So
can we call it AI anymore? Sorry to
yeah, true, because it's very confusing.
What are we
I don't mean
ChatGPT?
I don't mean ChatGPT AI. I mean enemies AI.
Are we calling them bots instead? I don't know what. Yeah.
Whatever. I'll just call them AI because now I've explained what I mean. So like, game designers always talk about, oh, this game has so smart AI. Oh, this game is super interesting. The AI is so cool, or whatever. And then they point at examples like Fear or whatever, which are like super boring, and the enemies, like, they do a bunch of theatrics, but they aren't actually a threat to the player whatsoever, so they aren't interesting at all.
Yeah.
You should check out our video on Fear. I don't remember which one it was, but it's very good. But I think Spelunky proves that dumb AI is good AI. Or, well, not necessarily is, but well,
no,
sorry.
It is.
Yeah, okay. Let's just say it is. So, because the AI in Spelunky is super, super simple. So, like, you'll have the bat, for example, who literally just flies towards the player.
Yeah.
Like that, like it doesn't even do pathfinding around the walls. It's like if there's a wall in the way, it just flies into the wall.
Yeah.
Or you'll have the spider who like sits on the ceiling, and then when you walk below it, it drops, and then it like jumps towards you. Like that's all it does. And like if it gets stuck, it gets stuck. Like the AI is super stupid. It looks super dumb. Like I think Spelunky is like one of the games with like the most stupid looking AI, because it just gets stuck and stuff all the time. But the thing is that the AI in that game is so good. Like the enemies in that game are so good because they are so goddamn dangerous.
Yeah.
And like that's what actually matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like once, sorry, go
ahead. You go first.
Yeah. So because once again, going back to what I said, you can't mention Spelunky without mentioning chain reactions. Yeah. It's like, if an enemy gets stuck, yeah, sure, that might not, like, oh wow, that enemy got stuck, it doesn't matter anymore. That's kind of lame. But then, like, some weird chain reaction happens where you fall into that hole where that spider dropped in, and all of a sudden, you're getting hit by a spider, and then you fly away into a spike or whatever, and, like, it ends up mattering anyways.
Yeah, it also helps you figuring out what's gonna happen, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. Yeah, now I wanted to point something out, though. Like, you said, or you didn't say, but, like, why are the devs doing all these complicated AIs and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're marketing the complicated AIs. And it ties into something that we should probably talk about at some point as well, which is, I think there is a lot of conflict of interest in general in game development, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I don't know if you've read a lot of, like, AI books, but I feel like the people that do game AI is, like, people that actually want to do, AI stuff or something.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and it's the same with graphics, right? It's like those are the people that wanted to do, like, Pixar movies.
Photorealistic, yeah. I understand.
And so you get all these people that have these goals, right? That are not aligned with the game at all. Mm-hmm. And then they're pushing that in marketing as well.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so, confusing a lot of the time with this. Because I don't think, like, if people actually thought about it, I don't think they, or I should not say people perhaps, but the designers, right? I don't think maybe they do. I don't know, like the AI thing, right? Like, I think they recognize that the dumb AI is good, but
I'm not sure, actually. I don't think that's true. It obviously depends on who you ask, but, like, I don't know. Like, if you look at something like Fear is, like, every time someone brings up, like, talks about good AI, they talk about Fear. And, like, the AI in Fear isn't good. Like, it's, as I said, it does a bunch of theatrics. Like, it'll say, I'm gonna flank him, and then it'll flank you. But, like, the AI isn't actually a threat towards the player whatsoever in that game.
Yeah.
And, like, people praise that game like it has the best AI in the world.
Yeah, but, like, So like I'm thinking about AI where it's like, oh look, they have this loop, right, where they'll they'll talk about some like state machine or something where they'll say like, oh look, they're gonna sit by the fire, but if they hear a sound, they're gonna patrol, and then they patrol, and then right, and they have these complicated things, and I kind of sort of get it because it sort of sells the environment a bit, maybe, right? But then again, when I think about games that are immersive, like truly immersive, a lot of the time they don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And actually, maybe it might actually be funny enough the opposite. Like, so if you think about, if you think about like zombies, right? In general, right? They're very dumb. And so they're easy to sell as an enemy, right? Because they're gonna walk towards you or whatever. But if you have these humans that are sitting by a campfire and they're talking, and then they're like, oh, I heard something, and then they go look for you, right? And then they patrol for like a minute, and then they give up. That's very immersion breaking, right? Because it doesn't sell them as a, like, it's like, it's not that the AI is not smart enough, it's that like what decisions it's doing is actually dumb, like it's very unrealistic. So it doesn't sell it at all.
Yeah, like
right?
it's very clear that they're going on like a cycle. It's like, oh, now I activated the patrol cycle, and now it's the patrol cycle for 2 minutes.
But even if it wasn't obvious, like, the fact that they're like, oh, they're cautious, like super suspicious and cautious in like for like a minute, and then they're like, oh no, that was nothing, right? And I get that they do that for gameplay reasons, but for the immersion aspect, I think it would go way further to like, no, they would just look everywhere or something, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why like dumb AI and undeads and stuff like that, like, in, for example, again, Dark Souls, sorry, there's a lot of like, in the beginning, right, there's a lot of, skeletons and stuff around, right? They're just standing there, and that makes sense because everyone is like undead in that game, right? So I think that's why monsters and stuff like that just works. Like, for example, if we go back to the game we're talking about, like Spelunky, it's like spiders and bats and stuff, right? It's easier to sell those as enemies because...
Well, there's also like tribal like guys in the jungle.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but I mean, they're tribal guys. I don't know.
Yeah. And then there's also like the weird AI companions as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It just works better. It feels less fake, I guess, when the AI is done for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's
and I think it's like, in a game like Spelunky, once again, where chain reactions matter so much, it's like actually being able to reason about what the AI is gonna do is like super important. So like one thing you can do, for example, is that you can like, for example, trick a spider into jumping in front of a arrow trap that the arrow trap triggers on the spider instead. And like, that's an actually useful thing to be able to do. And if the spider was super complicated, doing that would be like super complicated, right? So it sort of matters that it's simple. But then I also think that like, I think one of the problems with like people who do AI stuff is that they try to make the AI act realistically or like fairly, which is like not what you want to do. What you kind of want to do, I mean, maybe it depends a bit on the game, but in general, I think that the best AI is the AI that just tries to fuck over the player as much as possible.
I was gonna say that. I just realized that while we were talking about it. I think the problem is that they're trying to make the AI seem smart.
Yeah, but not be smart.
But it's not even be smart. It's like the AI should just try to win.
Exactly.
And if it does that, even if it's dumb, even if it's in a dumb way, if it tries to win, then it seems way smarter, right? Because it's actually trying to win, right? Which is the goal for the AI.
I would actually slightly modify that. I would say that the AI's goal should be to make the player lose. Because that's sort of the goal. That's winning for the AI.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that is
my
winning,
favorite example,
in my
yeah,
mind, right?
yeah, I guess.
It depends on
But
the
like
game, I guess.
sometimes it'll be like, oh, they'll try to do some weird stuff. But my favorite example of this
the Fire
is
Emblem.
Fire
Yeah,
Emblem.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
because
I
I
know.
always bring it
Yeah.
up. So like the AI in Fire Emblem, it's like a tactical RPG with permadeath. So the thing that the AI does in that game is that they literally just bum rush your like weakest character and try to kill them.
Yeah.
And they don't care if they die or not. They just try to bum rush your weakest character and kill them all the time.
There is actually some, like, in some of the games, I think most of them, there is like some equation. The AI is actually more complicated than it should be, in my opinion, in that game. But it never happens. Or like it's gonna be this rare case where like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die, and then the AI didn't do this right thing because of the decision tree, right? But it's very rare. Most of the time,
like it's probably a bit more complicated under the hood, but the result is that they always rush the lowest health enemy or lowest health player character.
Yeah.
And the reason that's so interesting is because the game has permadeath, and so if your character dies, you get fucked and you like have to restart the level. And like it's actively trying to make the player lose, right? And so you always need to be very careful about where you put your characters, because if you put them in a situation where they can die, they will die. The problem with a lot of modern games is that if you put your character in a situation where they can die, the AI will do like some theatrics, running around and thinking or whatever and doing tactical stuff, quote unquote, instead of just making you lose, which is super uninteresting.
I think that is what breaks the immersion, actually. I didn't think about that before, but that is the thing that does it, because it feels more natural, I think, or like, I guess natural, right? That something dumb is trying to win versus something pretending to be smart, but it's clearly not smart because it's not trying to win, right?
Yeah.
That is very interesting. I haven't thought about it in that way before.
Yeah. Although, like, to be fair, I don't know if this is even worth pointing out, but like, I wouldn't say necessarily that the AI... Well, maybe it does. Because the AI, like, a lot of the enemies in Spelunky aren't necessarily, like, actively working against you, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like it's an enemy faction and you have to kill all the enemies and the enemies have to kill all of you. It's like, they're kind of just there.
Well,
and if you activate them...
They are trying to win within their constraints, right?
Like, true.
The bat's rule is that the bat flies towards you, and it's not gonna do anything advanced. Let's see, sure, but it's gonna try as good as it can, or as well as it can, right? To just do that until you die, right? It's not gonna give up.
Yeah.
Or not until you die, but it's gonna fly, I guess, because you could survive it, right? I mean, I guess it's gonna keep flying into you until you die, but...
Well, no, it can get stuck on walls and stuff.
I know, but that's just like it getting stuck doesn't mean that it's not trying to kill you. It's not gonna stop trying to kill you just because it gets stuck, right?
Yeah.
It's just gonna keep trying to fly towards you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is interesting. An interesting parallel, actually, to like stealth games. I wonder if that is like a thing that you should think about there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think this does apply to my favorite stealth game, Shadow Tactics, which we should make a video about someday because it's very good. So, like, stealth game AIs, they're like super weird and they have like these patrol things and then they're like, I wonder who's going there or whatever. And like, the best stealth game I've ever played is Shadow Tactics, and the enemy AI in that game is a cone. And if you walk into the cone for long enough, you get detected and they shoot you.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Yeah. Like, and then they have like predetermined patrol routes and stuff. Yeah. But like, there's nothing more complicated than that. It's like, there's a cone, and if you're in the cone, you get detected.
Yeah.
And like, then you'll have like tools, like you can throw lures and stuff so that people walk to them. But then they walk back to their patrol route, and then they keep going. They're very pre-programmed and stuff like that.
Yeah. For that part, I agree, but I'm thinking, like, I don't know how it does with like when you're detected, right? Stealth games usually do this thing where like, oh, it must have been the wind or something, right? And then they go
Mm-hmm.
back and they do the patrol thing. And I wonder if
Yeah.
that part is like kind of immersion breaking, right? If they like,
Maybe. Yeah.
because it's so obviously, you know, against, like, I wonder if it would be more interesting if they just kept being, or kept trying to find you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, maybe.
thinking about
Mm-hmm.
thinking out loud or whatever right now. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
have to think more about stealth games at some
Yeah.
point. But today we're talking about Spelunky.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is one final thing
Mm-hmm.
that I want to mention briefly before, because we've already spoken for quite a while, so I'll try to make this fast.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the whip.
Ooh, yeah,
The whip is the standard attack, and it is garbage.
Yeah.
Like it's super slow to like when you press the button, there's like a super long animation.
Yeah.
The range is super short.
Yeah.
There's a super long recovery, and like you need to be like how do you say this? Like in the y-axis, you need to be very precise.
Yeah.
There's no like area to the attack at all. Like it's super trash. And it's super interesting that it is so trash, because like it means that you need to actually use all of the tools available to you. Like you actually need to be creative. Because I feel like if the whip was good, you would just go around and whip everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And in his defense, it actually looks garbage as well, because it's like very short and.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional.
Yeah, it is. I think he even talked about.
I think he even mentioned that.
He
mentioned that in his book.
Yeah, I think he made it to like it looked too powerful at some point, and then he just made it look weaker.
Exactly. And I feel like
because that's fun, like funny. Sorry for interrupting you, but like it's interesting from a designer perspective, right? Because I think a lot of designers would go like, okay, I guess I'll buff the whip, right? It looks too powerful, so I'll buff it. But he's like, no, I'll just make it look as shit as it is, right? Which is funny.
Just make it look shittier. Yeah. And I feel like that's such a power move, or whatever you want to call it, because it's like, it's the basic attack. You know, most designers would say, oh yeah, make sure your basic attack feels very nice and is very good and like very satisfying to use. And like the whip is just trash all the way through, and it's intentional, obviously, but it's so nice that it is. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. That was my final note on Spelunky. A very, very good game.
Yeah.
And, you know, from reading what Derek Yu has to say, he is a very, very good designer. Yeah. You know, UFO 50, I'm not a big fan of like collection things, so I hope his next game is like a full normal real game. Yeah. Because I'm gonna play the shit out of that when it releases, if it releases.
Yep.
But yeah, he says very smart stuff, so you should check out his like blogs and his book and his social media.
Yeah, he even understands sort of more mainstream stuff. Like he talked about, I don't know what he called it. Did he call it bigness? I don't remember the thing. Like basically the reason why he made UFO 50 the way he did, right? Because he recognized that that's good for marketing or whatever. Like it's a good way to make money. Like he figured that out, sort of. Even that part he like understands, which is really interesting, right? Because I feel like a lot of the bigger companies, they don't understand necessarily why they're making money on stuff. They just do random shit, right?
Yeah, and then like they strike gold, and then it makes a bunch of money, but then
they can't capitalize,
and then they go bankrupt.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah, they don't understand why it's working for them.
Yeah. He's obviously very smart. That Derek Yu guy. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it for us today. Thank you for listening. Leave a like or a dislike if you agree or disagree, or if you hate the video. I don't know. Also leave a comment as usual. It's always very interesting to read what you have to say. And don't forget to subscribe, because we upload a bunch of videos that are super interesting and you should watch all of them.
Yes, every single one.
Yes.
Maybe actually watch every single video 10 times, please.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good way to spend your life.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye bye.